It becomes a control loop, a way of putting her down and saying, you're just, to your core, too needy, too much, constantly nagging. Something's wrong with you.
So often, men will pretend that they don't know how to do basic household tasks, basic things. They don't know how to do the dishes. They can't figure out the dishwasher. So confusing, right? Women are just better at it, is the message that we're told. But meanwhile, a lot of women are waking up and discovering weaponized incompetence. Now, I first heard this in a song, like a playful, funny, silly little TikTok song years ago. But when I started following that account, I found other accounts that really talked about this in a way that was eye-opening to me. And one of those accounts was my guest, Laura Danger. So I want you to introduce yourself first, and then we're going to kind of get into talking about how men really weaponize this I don't understand in household tasks.
Yes. Oh boy. So excited to get into it. So I'm Laura Danger, author of the book No More Mediocre, where I cover this topic and more. And I also am That Darn Chat on TikTok and Instagram. And yes, I started getting really big over on TikTok primarily and then over on the other platforms. But in 2020 and 2021, when I really started to get real angry and tired of these super viral hashtag comedy videos that highlighted this behavior of weaponizing incompetence, or what went very viral as hashtag weaponized incompetence. So that's how we connected a long time ago. And yeah, I'm really excited to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things to say. I don't know why, but every time I think about the topic of weaponized incompetence, I actually remember a conversation, if you can even call it that I don't know why I even bothered to have this conversation with a man, but it went on for days. And I'm telling you, this guy left about 500 comments on 2 videos that I made over the course of about a week. He was arguing with every single person in the comments. And his main thing was something that is just so prevalent in the concept of weaponized incompetence, which is basically that women's standards are too high, and that if you want the underwear picked up off the floor and it's so important to you, do it yourself. And so the framing both that women's standards are too high and that they should do it themselves, additionally, that women are better at these things. And I could talk for hours on these topics, but the thing is, women are experiencing this. This isn't some silly little online chat, right? She didn't communicate what she wanted. It's just the difference in standards. That one actually just pisses me off the most. Can we start with you just really baseline saying, what is weaponized incompetence? What does it actually entail?
So weaponized incompetence, it's a spectrum, but in general, it is failing on purpose in order to avoid accountability. And at the base level, it's a harmful behavior. It's often part of a pattern. And when it's a part of a pattern, it is very clearly within the realm of an abusive behavior. It is often a behavior of, so you fail at something on purpose, which causes the other party who is on the receiving end of this behavior to make up the difference, to overcompensate. Oftentimes there's an emotional backlash that comes with calling it out. There's this lack of accountability with it. Sometimes the weaponized incompetence is sabotaging something to the point where there is harm in it. So oftentimes this shows up when there is a caregiving role. So imagine there are 2 parents and a child, and one party, oftentimes mom, because socially we put a lot on mom's shoulders. Mom is the primary caregiver. Mom takes care of everything, gives all the lists, directs and monitors everything. And then she is very tired. She says, hey, could you watch the baby while I take a shower? And while she's in the shower, she can hear the baby crying. She notices that the baby gets into something that they shouldn't get into while she's in the shower. If she's frustrated when she gets out with what she should have reasonably been able to count on a partner to take care of a child while she's in the shower. If she's frustrated with the behavior and brings it up, weaponized incompetence would be the backlash. It would be the, what did you expect? I didn't do that bad of a job. It would be the avoidance of the dismissal, the downplaying of what happened. the impact on the child and the impact on her. So when this becomes a pattern of downplaying, dismissal, avoidance, when the child or the person being cared for continuously is not getting their needs met, it's removing the choice from the other partner. She can't take a shower safely. She ends up bearing the burden and making sacrifices, overcompensating, having to push down her resentment. Ultimately, that is controlling her choices. So that's where this power comes from.
Absolutely. And I mean, listen, the root of abuse is power and control. And a lot of people are like, oh, my husband, he always whatever, he never whatever. And I know like my personal examples are always dishes and laundry because I feel like those are things, everybody has dishes. And this idea of like, oh, you just do the laundry differently, it is maddening. Or the framing of, my children's father constantly used to say, like, they're fine, they're alive. What's your problem? They're alive by sheer luck, dude. You were asleep. Like it would be criminal. If this something happened, it would be front page news that dad was sleeping when something happened. Do you know? And if a mother was sleeping, my God, right? The difference. So it's interesting though, because it always comes back to her reaction as the problem. And I'm saying that, I want to highlight that because even when I'm not talking about weaponized incompetence, her reaction is the problem, is abuse. That's what's happening in weaponized incompetence. But people act like it's a communication issue. You should have told him that he shouldn't sleep while you're taking a shower, that the infant is supervised. You had to explain that dishes need soap. Are you kidding?
Right. That's where, so the social idea that women should be the managers, the list makers, telling everybody what to do, creates this environment where it's really easy to blame women when it veers into this really dangerous area. Because, okay, it could be reasonable if somebody, like, if I'm not used to doing the laundry and I don't realize that my spouse sorts things, maybe, or that, he throws in the dry clean only shirt and maybe I accidentally wash it. Maybe I don't pull things out of the pockets, whatever. Totally reasonable mistakes to make.
Yep.
And even if I'm called out for it, it is also pretty reasonable for me to feel, defensive if, he's like calling me out on something I did something in good faith. Like, it's an honest mistake and he's frustrated with me. That's a reasonable tension and conflict. Now, if I said, you do it yourself next time, I'm not doing it anymore. Or you should have known better than to ask me. I don't know how to do laundry. If I don't make any effort to change, if I don't acknowledge that, yes, it did have an impact on him, the intent matters, yes, very much. And the impact matters. Like, regardless of my good intent, it really doesn't matter. As someone who has ADHD and whose capacity wanes with my mental health or just being a human, this stuff's going to go wrong. And there are going to be things I'm not good at. It's the emotional backlash, the control and coercion. A lot of times this is, and not using it in the pop culture, pop psych way, but it's gaslighting of the inconsistency of, what did you expect? That I was going to know how to do this? Well, yeah, because reality tells me that if you can do a similar task outside of the home, and you should be able to do it at home. That's a reasonable thought. It becomes really confusing.
I agree. I thought you guys were leaders. I thought you were CEOs. I thought you should run the world. You can't figure out the dishwasher. I don't understand. It's so perplexing to me. I feel like I've said this a million times, but if you like to eat off of clean plates, then you know that plates need to be clean. Huh. Wow. You know that we keep them in the cupboard, right? Right over there. Because when you want to make yourself something, you know where to get the clean plates from. So you know that they need to be clean and be put there first. Not to be patronizing, but my God, I'll never understand how they are so good at derailing the conversation. And as soon as we start talking about, well, did you tell him? Right. Did you explain? Like you said, do the dishes. So he just put them in the dishwasher. He didn't know that you meant put them away too. He didn't know you meant put soap in and run it. He loaded it. He didn't run it. My God, I will never forget the fury inside me, but I see it in my clients all the time. Just the absolute exhaustion and rage at the way that it gets flipped. And then the defensiveness comes in, which, as you said, like, listen, anybody being, I want to say criticized, but even provided some kind of feedback on the way they do something, I can imagine that there needs to be a good way to communicate that. But when there's a pattern and eventually she's snapping at you or ripping your head off, I see a woman who's fed up. I see a woman who's asked too many times.
Well, and that's the weird part that I think it's skipped over. And I have seen it in the public conversation a lot more recently because the statistic about women asking for a divorce, initiating the divorce process, like 80% of divorces are initiated by women. There are many reasons for that. But one thing that really messes with my head that when you zoom in on it is very clear is if there is consistently a problem in your relationship with, oh gosh, she's always telling me I'm doing it wrong. I can never get it right. She's always on my case, always telling me what to do. Her standards are outrageous. If that is such a constant negative thing, wouldn't you want to fix it? Like, what steps are you taking to confront this pattern of a negative pattern? There often aren't any steps being taken. And if it is such a toxic situation that is not getting fixed, wouldn't you want to initiate a separation? And a lot of times that is not what happens. It becomes a control loop, a way of putting her down and saying, you're just, to your core, too needy, too much, constantly nagging. Something's wrong with you. And in fact, I love you anyway, which of course is abusive.
Yeah. I have a theory, though, actually, in what you said. Why do the men stay? Because you hear this a lot, right? Like, oh my God, she's so controlling. She's always on me about the dishes. She's always complaining. Nothing I ever do is good enough. And then they're like, oh my God, the divorce came out of nowhere. And all the women are like, no, it did not. But why does he stay? I saw this comment on TikTok, and it was a woman making a video, but it was a comment in her comment section. She was talking about how even bad marriages, men still benefit from. Like, listen, we know men benefit from marriage. I know men get really mad at that because they don't necessarily agree because some men are blind to all of their benefits. But what's interesting is why do the men who are like, oh my God, my wife is so bad, so this, and such a nag, he stays because he still benefits, because all he has to do is use things like weaponized incompetence, and then the dishes are magically done, and he gets sex, and he gets the house and the married man thing and the vibe and the family, all while she's carrying everything. The truth is that women need to hear, he doesn't care. Shut up. Stop talking. He doesn't care. Like, I'm not saying to women to shut up in his mind. Stop talking about these damn dishes and just do them yourself. The problem will go away. Meanwhile, no, her problem will only become bigger and she will become part of that 80%. It's just that simple.
Okay, so again, I think we really have a terrible setup in society and when it comes to the standards for relationships for enabling that kind of behavior. Because this is something I talk about in the book, in No More Mediocre, the concept of the Nag Paradox, which isn't always weaponized incompetence. It is often, this is just like the standard setup that so many of us see of one party is a domestic engineer and the other party is supporting them or like playing the supporting role. So the Nag Paradox would be one party saying, just make me a list, just tell me what to do. And then they flip it and they go, don't tell me what to do. And it's this defensiveness that comes out of it. And anybody who's ever tried to look up like, oh God, how can I fix this dynamic will have found the Gottmans. And the Gottman Institute has studied relationships and they have a lot of really good research and great tools for communication. And one of the things that I have seen weaponized is they talk about this soft start. And so there are these 4 horsemen of relationships that if they're present, it's high likelihood that your relationship will end or fail. End. It's not a failure if it ends. That's great for everybody often. But that the marriage will end. It's defensiveness, criticism, stonewalling, and contempt. And then they also provide the antidotes. And so one of the antidotes of criticism of this would be, or defensiveness would be a soft start. So like, hey, I know you're trying your best and you and I don't want to have these conflicts. I really want to feel more connected. Could we get ahead of this? Would be like, softening the way that you talk, coming in good faith to a conversation, considering their feelings. ultimately it's emotional labor. And when one party is overwhelmed and overburdened with the mental and emotional load and is constantly in a place of asking for help, always, when things get overwhelming, they are going to have to overcompensate, overwhelmingly focus on their partner or housemate, on their feelings, regardless of how they're feeling, and are constantly tasked with having to start the conversations. And if someone is the more passive one and is waiting for directions, they don't have that labor. They don't have to do it. And in fact, they can blame the other party for not having a soft start. Had you asked me nicer, had you given me a chance, you didn't trust me to do it, so you just did it yourself. You did this to yourself. It creates a million excuses, which it's baked into how that setup is. You tell me what to do, which it isn't always weaponized incompetence, but it looks a lot like it, especially with the emotional labor, and it can very easily slide into strategic failing, sabotaging, blaming, being defensive, again, criticism and contempt. Stonewalling is like silent treatment-ish, name calling. You are a nag. It's a real great setup for that.
I totally agree. Listen, if you need a list though, I don't respect you. If you live in this house, I just can't. I'm so at a place in my life where I just actively am so aware that I could never respect another adult human being. My children know. My daughter, who is 7 years old, came home from school yesterday and she wanted to take the garbage from her lunchbox and put it in the garbage. She went over, she saw there was no bag. She put her lunchbox down, went over to the sink underneath, got a garbage bag. 7. It's anyone can do this. You don't need to be a girl. My son would do it too. He's done it many times. You just need to be a person with 2 eyeballs and care. So I really believe that so much of this comes from it's not their job. So much of this is masked in, they think it's beneath them to actually do these things.
Definitely. It's that lack of feeling responsible for it, lack of valuing it. Something that is really interesting. So there have been studies done about the division of labor, and one of them that has been done, I think it's through the Fair Play Institute, or in partnership with them, found that of all of the household tasks, the one that men did the most, from start to finish, from monitoring it to actually happening, was the trash. But if you have ever talked to anybody who would say that, there's something that I think gets skipped. And actually, Imani Waterfield, formerly Imani Payne by NE, she's fantastic. She's online. She talked about this very publicly and was like, okay, let's say my partner did the trash. Did they ever order all of the trash bags? That when the trash bin was damaged out by the alley, did they order a new one? How often did they bleach it out? Did they plan for a Saturday where they were going to bleach everything, scrub all the handles, and make sure there was enough time for it to dry so that it was put away by the evening? How much are they really doing when you say that they handle it? I think that's such an important thing to notice. Yes, noticing that the trash bag is not there and then not leaving the trash on the counter and no trash bag in there. And there's so much more to it.
Yeah, but I actually love her take because, first of all, I mean, my God, trash might be one of the most cliche examples even, right? How many times do I have to ask you to take out the trash? It's so maddening. And then that's the thing that they get the credit for doing the most often. Let's say that's true, because if there was a study done, especially if the Fair Play Institute conducted it, I'm saying it's true. But her point is okay, you're talking about the daily responsibility of trash, but what about the bigger picture? And honestly, ordering trash bags, it kind of goes to mental load, which is not totally the topic here, but it's part of it. I did the dishes, yeah, but you finished the dish soap, and then the next time I went to do the dishes myself, there's no friggin' soap. It just, all of this, right? The women are perfectionists. They're not communicating it. Just ask, just make me a list. You're such a nag. All of this is such a mass deflection. It's maddening. But these men will say, it's your fault, or I just don't know how. I really don't know how. And I always use this example because it's my own personal example of the first time that my abusive ex ever used this on me, though I didn't recognize it at the time because I was 27 back then. I was wide-eyed and, hopeful. But we were going somewhere And we'd only been dating for like 3 months, but we were going somewhere and he needed to wear a dress shirt. So he pulled out his iron in his apartment and put his shirt down and then ironed it and left a very clear like burn mark. And I have to admit, in hindsight, I was like, how could anyone burn it in that manner? It wasn't slightly burned. It was like a dark brown, like you just left it on. And I remember laughing in a like, what is wrong with him? But in hindsight, I very much recognize that I might as well have been like, haha, boys will be boys. And then I just ironed his shirt for a new shirt for him. And I was like, oh my God, I'll do it. Goodness me. And I took over. And I was like, that was the beginning of the rest of that decade-long relationship of me being like, you don't get it. And then I do it. He straight up admitted 8 years in, and we were split within 2 years after that. But he said out loud, I burned it on purpose. I hate ironing. And I was like, oh my, he like literally sacrificed a shirt just to do that. Openly admitted it was on purpose. And at the time, it didn't shock me. When he admitted it, I was like, that tracks. But not all of them admit it, but that's on purpose. I mean, you can see steam and smoke coming out of a shirt when you're ironing it. Like, you know, and again, it was very dark brown. It wasn't like a mild burn. I should have known it was on purpose. But this is the kind of thing, how do you think women can tell that he's faking it? Like using whatever example. But how can you tell it's weaponized incompetence versus I don't understand? What does it look like?
Well, it's interesting. I think that it really plays on our desire to be like, if someone is telling you they love you, they wouldn't do that. Like they would communicate about it. And so I think like any abusive or harmful behavior, it's like, don't blame yourself, you know, for not noticing because it doesn't make sense. What they were doing doesn't make sense. But I think, I mean, like anything, it becomes a pattern. And I think it's really interesting that you mention that specific example. So had you two gone out and he didn't have the appropriate outfit, or if you had to like panic last minute and find something, there would have been some sort of consequence had you not jumped in to fix it. Either he would have had to scramble, you guys might have been late, you would have looked rude, whatever it is, or it's a hygiene and appearance and presentability problem if it doesn't get fixed, which doesn't reflect on him, it reflects on you. So a lot of times this weaponized incompetence stuff it's a domestic issue and the responsibility regardless is going to fall on you. You're going to be blamed for it, even if he burns the meal, if he doesn't clean up around the house, if the trash is overflowing and you have friends over and it smells terrible. The consequence is not losing social credit to him. No, it's going to be you. And that's where I believe you can start to spot the inconsistencies. Like if there is a task with similar executive demands, you know, there's multiple steps to it. You have to anticipate and monitor. Like if the same skills they are able to use in a way that benefits them. So can they pay attention to and remember a client's interests? Do they remember that in a sales call that somebody's got a daughter who's graduating, but somehow they cannot remember important dates for you?
Their own daughter's birthday or something. Yeah.
That's where you can start to see I think it's the inconsistencies. That's where I would say you'd notice it.
As you were saying that, I actually just had a really like a flashback of a very specific conversation. Man, it's crazy to me how much this is just coming back at me. I remember a very specific conversation about me asking how you function at work. He was a department head in an operations. I don't want to get into detail about where he worked, but like it was operational and he was a department head and a leader and a strong leader and very authoritative and like running the show. And everybody needed to move quickly and do what he was saying. But I was like, how do you organize that at work? I don't understand how you can see everything that needs to get done, organize it all in your mind, and then delegate all the things to everybody and get the timing right and everything comes together and it's seamless. And at the end of the day, everybody's like, that was great. And yet you can't figure out the most basic things at home. You can't figure out he was the give me a list guy. Although I will tell you, and I shouldn't say tell you because you know this, the ask for a list man is the exact same man who gets mad at you for nagging him. But it's like you asked for the list and then you've made me now make you a list and now I've given it to you. I've delegated it, which automatically makes me the manager of the list. but you resent me asking you if you've completed the list that you've asked me to delegate you, even though you put me in that role. Like the paradox of that is very frustrating because I really, in my experience, both personally and professionally talking to people, I don't see the make me a list guy is the guy that goes, oh, great, done, mark. He's not that guy. He's the guy that will get mad at you.
Yeah. And I think it just keeps coming back, that situation of if you don't like the setup, like if this setup is frustrating to you, because it's clearly frustrating to me, then please let's work together to solve the problem. And that's where a collaborative approach to a household, that's what we should be doing. That's the opposite of that. That is how we can climb our way out. The only setup is not the Nag Paradox, is not the make me a list. It is a collaborative approach or clearly defined roles. Like I'm sure we've all been a part of an organization or a group project or a friendship or a family system that can accomplish things with everyone's opinions, skills, everything considered. We know that we have examples of that. And when you think about a work environment and one party is doing all of the stuff and checking in, and we know that that feels bad. So there are solutions. And if you are not proposing them and you are not taking them when they're suggested and you're defensive about it, blaming, requiring other people accommodate you without acknowledgement, that would be weaponized incompetence.
And to me, that's on purpose. I want to just reiterate that. Weaponized incompetence can only happen after you've had some kind of conversation. I know for me, it was like he was meant to be responsible for outdoor work and there wasn't a lot going on outside. We didn't have a big property, but like you do outside things, trash and dishes and nothing else. Like everything else was me. So you want to talk division of labor? It was like 90-10. And for any man brave enough to be listening to this, I was also the breadwinner. So nobody talked to me about money either. Okay. I hate that idea of like, well, you're staying at home. Who are these women that are staying at home? Most women work outside the home for money. And the ones that don't work outside the home for money work inside the home for free. So we're all working is the point. But couldn't even do the trash, couldn't even do the dishes. So and I would say, can you do the trash? Can you blah, blah, blah? And I remember one of his big excuses was like, I wasn't even home. What do you mean do the dishes? They're not my dishes. And I would be like, well, I don't wear your underwear and yet you expect me to wash them, dry them, fold them, and put them away. Like this is a team effort here. It can't just be you only do the dishes when you're home. Otherwise, I'm only washing clothes I wear. How about that?
Yeah. That's the other thing that really kills me. I feel like there was something that went really viral recently. And it was a man explaining like, what's in it for men? Like, what's in it for men to get married? Something like that. And was like, she wants this, this, and this. And I think he was talking about his own partner. She wants this, this, and this. And like, I guess I will give up my life and do this for her. And in fact, I make this case in my book where if you don't want that, sir, don't sign up for it. I think that the thing that is really disorienting about weaponized incompetence in a lot of like unhappy cishet partnerships is that neither party wants what's going on. But there is a lot of times men are saying like, I'm doing you a favor, which don't do me any favors, please. I want someone who wants me. And I think that the whole idea that it's okay to be miserable, it's normal to settle or do your partner a favor by giving up your life, like that, if we could just get rid of that as a norm, I would rather be in a beautiful, loving partnership with a bunch of platonic friends. Like I would so much rather have people around me who love me in a unique way than be in a terrible, miserable marriage with someone who thinks they're doing me a favor.
I think that men, though, they have this sort of like framework of it's normal to be unhappy. And I find it so perplexing that they claim to be unhappy given all the benefits. It's like, the benefits aren't enough. I also need you to never complain, completely comply, have sex with me as often as I want, and do everything and shut up about it, in addition to all the other benefits that they already get. But it's mind-blowing how much they're like, I'm unhappy and that's normal, so I guess I'll marry her. The like ball and chain thing. You know, I used to be in a event planner in my past life, I was in events for 17 years, weddings and corporate. But the weddings part, I cannot tell you how many times brides will send me their photos, as in engagement photos or their wedding photos. Think I was venue based, so they would send them to me to see if I had any good shots of the venue. But I see all the photos and I see these like ball and chain type photos where she's, won something and he looks miserable and she's playing right into it. Disgusting. Like I could never, I don't understand the joke of like, he's stuck with you and that, the nagging wife and I got to check with the wife. I hate all those jokes. If you don't want to be here, the door's right there. Because it's actually, look at all the women these days filing for divorce, not getting remarried, choosing not to date. And the men that are choosing not to date, number one, it's a lower number of men choosing not to date. And they're not dating because they don't want to change, which the women are like, okay, cool, good, thank you. And men are thinking that they're like holding out on us and that one day it's going to make us change. And I just laugh because I think it's just the birth rate is dropping for a reason. That's what I think.
Yeah. And it's so multi-tiered. There is this expectation like that you will accept and resign yourself to it and just settle into something that's not going well.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part of it. And you sort of point this out in the beginning. There is this like work is miserable. We are not getting paid enough. Housing prices are through the roof. Here in the US, we have no access to childcare or parental leave or health care. Like it's really a miserable situation and the working conditions are bad and keep getting worse. And so a lot of times men who have been told forever that their entire lives and value come from wage earning or how much power and, social credit they can get as an employee or maybe one day the boss, like their work is so tied to their worth and it's not going well. And there is this identity crisis and this like internal crisis of, oh no, I'm not safe. Even if I comply with everything, I'm not safe. I just want to go home and I just want to, ultimately what's going unsaid is have a little bit of power and benefit a little bit from some labor that because my boss is benefiting from my labor. And it really is a lot, regardless of your gender, we're being exploited and kind of grasping at straws for how to feel a sense of safety. And unfortunately, a lot of people are doing it in the way that is not loving or connected or caring. They're just being like, you do the work for me. I want to kick my feet up. I want you just figure it out. You be my peace. When really we should all be raising a ruckus. We should all be like, screw you. I'm not giving you any more of my overtime. I am going to be a part of what happens in my household instead of working harder to possibly earn more so that I can afford the groceries. I'm going to also learn with my wife how to cook at home and coupon cut and be happy with what I have and not overconsume. It's like really, like if you zoom out, a lot more is going on. And I think we should all be blowing up the whole thing.
I completely agree with you. I think of years ago, as I am online, I was talking about narcissism and then it sort of expanded into abuse, not just that type. And, you learn all kinds of things. And then it became from abuse education and explaining concepts to people to like, there's systems in place that are making it be this way, right? You start thinking about patriarchy and capitalism and all kinds of things. And it's quite different when you start opening it up to like, why is this happening? And what are the solutions? Not just how bad is it? I think one of the biggest sort of paradoxes of a patriarchal kind of viewpoint is women are better at domestic labor or that we're built for it or biologically, whatever garbage these men are throwing. But there's no studies that show that, right? That women are better at it, but we are expected to do it. But I think the interesting piece in this is that when we do develop the expertise through repetition, we've always been responsible for, let's just use laundry, Okay, so why is that expertise not respected when you say, can you please use fabric softener with the towels?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, I don't understand why it's so you're just better at it, but also don't tell me how to do it because I'm a grown man. But you just said you don't know how. And not to mention you're doing it wrong or poorly. And then you're making me do it. And that flip is so perplexing. I think there's so many parts. I mean, we could take this in a million directions, but it's just the most maddening thing that it always gets reframed onto her problem or the way she communicated or high standards or something. Like it just,
There's always something. Yes.
it benefits them. Like the men are benefiting from this game of weaponized incompetence. And I think we are doing what we can, right, to dismantle this, including walking away from relationships, certainly. But
100%.
what do you think, like on the rare chance that people are with someone who doesn't get it, we can explain and teach. And I think, you were kind of talking earlier, like if you express how something could be done better and somebody is willing to receive feedback, I think that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any change in people who, like it really is weaponized incompetence? Do you ever see comments from or talk to people and it's like you can kind of tell that's not going to work. He doesn't want to change.
Yeah, it's really interesting with the setup of just give me a list and I'll do it. With that being sort of the default setup for a relationship, I have seen a lot of people get better, get changed to a more collaborative approach. I've seen that plenty and plenty and plenty of times. That doesn't mean there isn't resistance. That doesn't mean there isn't defensiveness and resentment and all sorts of like needing to deal with your emotional reaction to that. There's all of that. It's complicated, but I have seen that done so many times. I've also, on a couple of occasions, heard from people in many different kinds of relationships, regardless of gender, regardless of whether it's romantic or not. They have DM'd me or emailed me even and said, hey, I didn't realize what I was doing and I didn't realize the impact of it until I saw you point it out. And one person had a conversation with me and said, I've sort of dodged some responsibilities at home. Like I've just like kind of half-assed it or like I haven't done a great job because I hoped that my spouse would do it. Or I've pretended not to see something because I wanted them to do it. And they said, not only did I didn't think it was a big deal. I just didn't think like it had a huge cost to them. And I assumed maybe they did the same thing sometimes. And also I saw my dad do it and like it. And then he was like, but I'm recognizing like I should be communicating that and I shouldn't be defensive about it. And I was like, that is awesome. That is and that's, I think the whole point is that's a good faith effort to reflect and grow. Because all of us, I mean, how many toxic behaviors in communication have I had that I might be defensive about? But when somebody points it out to me, I have to ask, like, do I care about the impact? Do I care about this relationship? If so, I have to try to unlearn this behavior because it's not acceptable if it's hurting someone. But with any abusive behavior, you can't convince somebody, you can't talk somebody into or like somehow make yourself appear worthy in their eyes of change. That's not, it's them. It's a them problem. And they have to do it.
Yeah. To me, like abuse is a choice and weaponized incompetence is a choice. I do agree that it can be an unconscious choice like this, and then it might, you sort of bring it to the surface, which I think is part of why we need to be talking about this so that women can go, hey, this has a name and this is what it feels like to me. Can we talk? But I'm telling you, for the women that are listening, you talk to them like 1, maybe 2 times. If the response is resistance, deflection, minimizing, blaming, calling you names, getting angry like we're discussing, that is just absolutely a crystal clear sign that they don't want to change and that they're not going to change, that they're benefiting from it. Especially if you see it across multiple things, like if they do all kinds of things in the house except the dishes, okay, but this, you don't see that. Usually weaponized incompetence is like women are doing it all. And the victims and survivors of abuse that I talk to are like, I do everything. Child raising, dishes, everything inside, many outside as well. Women are dragging trash bins out to the corner as men are like, we take out the trash as if that's incredible when A, they're not. And B, that's very small. That's such a small task. I'd rather do that than half the things inside the house.
Yeah.
But we all live here. And that's the point. I'm so grateful now to be with someone who doesn't need lists and just notices things and just does things. Like I remember on a Wednesday night once, I saw him vacuuming and I'm like, what the? And it was just, we needed to vacuum. There's no question, not even like a hint of like, we really need to vacuum. Hint. No, just do it. And I don't want to give, gold stars and balloons for the basic bare minimum. I'm just saying this more as it is possible. Not all men, right?
Right.
Not all men do
That
it.
really is it. That's the basic of caring for someone, like taking care of a space. And I saw this it was like a thread the other day where it was like, oh, protector. Why don't you protect your family against germs by wiping down the counter? It's just, I love it. It's a great framework.
Yeah, that so is, right? You're such a protector. Well, why don't you? Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. I want women to know that a grown man that can't do dishes or laundry or basic things or manage a simple household task or asks you for a list, he is choosing incompetence because it works. Weaponized incompetence really isn't about chores, right? It's about who gets to opt out of responsibility and who pays for that choice. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope women feel seen in hearing this episode. And I hope that everybody goes to follow you at That Darn Chat and gets your book, No More Mediocre, because it's phenomenal. People are really going to learn a lot for that.
Thank you so much. I hope that people get it and get it for their friends and have the book club, which I should point out at lauradanger.com, I have a free downloadable discussion guide if you do decide to have a book club. It's very book clubbable.
Oh, I love that. I've been thinking about starting a book club, actually. So, what's interesting is that would be a very good topic for all
There you go.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.